Welcome everyone to the Life Bulb Seminar Series or Talk to Our Community Manager series. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Alex Barrios, special friend, community manager, and really excited to be here. I'm Karin Heemberger. I am the CEO of Life Bulb. I'm also a two-time kidney transplant recipient and pancreas transplant recipient. So Alex and I have a lot of shared, history. But to our audience, I'd love, Alex, if you could just introduce yourself and a little bit about your history with your kidney.
Sure. First and foremost, thank you, Karin, for giving me this platform, this opportunity. My name is Alex. Like Karin said, I am going to be 44 years old in 3 days. I am a one-time kidney transplant recipient. I reside in Louisville, Kentucky. I have two young children, a 13-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and a fiance who they're my life. I love them tremendously. They bring me much joy as I'm living with this disease. So yeah, I'm currently on dialysis right now, in-center dialysis 3 days a week, and I've been doing that for now. Entering my 4th year doing in-center dialysis as I wait for my second transplant. And I have been working on listing. I'm listed currently at 3 different centers in the area, 2 in my immediate area, and then 1 kind of far away. So like I said earlier, I live in Louisville, Kentucky. So I am listed with the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm listed with the University of Cincinnati Medical Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. And then just recently, in the last 3 months, have the opportunity to go up to New York City and get listed with NYU. And that was, as of Thanksgiving of 2023, I'm listed there. So those are the 3 centers I'm listed with, and I continue to wait. I have a high PRA of, if you don't know what that is, a PRA is a panel reactive antibody, where when you've either had a previous transplant or a blood transfusion, your body creates antibodies to fight off, foreign objects in your body. And it's a number from 0 to 100, and I'm at 100%, highly sensitized. And so looking at
So Alex, what does that mean when you're highly sensitized?
So when I'm highly sensitized, it means that when a potential donor wants to look to give me a kidney, they are wanting in the labs, what happens is they'll take a little sample of my blood, they'll take a sample of the blood of the potential donor, and they'll kind of put them together to see ultimately what will happen. This is being layman's terms because I'm not a professional, I don't work in labs, and I'm not a doctor. So I'm explaining it the way I know how to as a patient. So
no, I mean, this is exactly
how
you should explain it. Yeah.
So you take the blood of the potential donor, and you, in essence, you put it together and mix, and then they look under a microscope, and they see if there's any reaction to it. And if there's a reaction, and this is where I always can never remember, if it's negative, that means that's actually a good thing. If it's a positive, that means that would automatically reject or automatically see those cells and say, nope, we're not gonna get into your body. So I'm at 100%, which means that, like, if there were 100 kidneys in a petri dish in a room, all 100 of them wouldn't match me, in essence. So I'm a very hard match. Not to say that there couldn't be an antibody, there couldn't be something in my blood work where there could be some chances of suppressing an antibody here or there, where it can lower the number ever so slightly to find me that match. So that's kind of me on the personal side with the kidney and what I'm doing. Now with Life Bulb, I've been with Life Bulb now doing as a community manager, since August, I want to say, maybe June or July of summer of 2023. I think I started summer of 2023. I had the opportunity to work with Karin and get involved with a workshop, and had the chance to talk with her and share my story like I'm doing now, but to a different audience, and have that opportunity to share kind of what it was like being a man of color, a person who's dealing with dialysis and this chronic condition, and looking for a transplant. And so that's kind of where I am now today, still waiting, still actively working with Lifebulb, because I think as somebody who's been waiting for a kidney, I know that our platform and the audience, that the community we work with, are folks who are looking for possibly second organs as well, second chances. And so I'm one of those folks, and I have been transplanted, so I know all of the side effects, all the things that we've talked about with being transplanted. And yes, I'm not actively transplanted currently, like Karin, but I do know what the medicines are like and what that process is like. I had the fortunate chance to, like I said, I got a kidney transplant my first time. I'll back up a little bit and share a little bit about my origin story, I guess is what I'll call it. In 2007, I had just moved to Kentucky, and I was sick with just some what I thought was a cold. Went to a doctor's office and saw they were giving out free blood pressure screenings, and was like, well, let me check my blood pressure. I'm just curious. It was free. I didn't have any. I was low on funds at the time, but I was like wanted to kind of see what that was looking like. And lo and behold, my blood pressure was 210 over 130. It was really, really high. Thought I was going to have a stroke. They thought I was going to have a stroke. Funny to say, when I was in that moment, getting my blood pressure checked and having the cuff on me, I remember distinctly the nurse saying, like, "Are you okay?" And in that moment, I was fine. I had no symptoms, nothing at that point.
Hypertension. Yeah,
Yeah,
hypertension can be very insidious, right?
yeah,
It can happen to
exactly.
you, it can grow on you, and
So it
um,
did exactly what happened. So it grew on me, and I was like I didn't know what to expect, and looking back at it though, Karen, it's funny. Like I saw symptoms, knowing what I know now and all the
yeah.
research and the things I've seen. I'm like, oh yeah, that was definitely the blood pressure kind of rearing its ugly head, or
So,
oh,
so
had something here.
Alex, tell us what some of those symptoms were, because I think it's helpful to those who
Mhm.
may walk around with high blood pressure but never
Yeah.
test it.
Sure, sure. So with high blood pressure, what I have found for me, a lot of it was headaches and
Yeah.
migraine, blurry vision, nosebleeds. Oh my gosh. Well, I getting nosebleeds like crazy. Nosebleeds, itchiness, itchy skin still. That was related to the kidneys too, but I think it's also the hypertension. I think also the high blood pressure, I dealt with like almost like I needed to be drinking a whole bunch of water. Like I was like just dehydrated
Hmm.
a lot. That was something that I felt. And that again, probably more related to the kidney failing than the high blood pressure, but it seemed like it was all kind of hand in hand the same thing to me at the time. That's what I remember when I had the high blood pressure was those main symptoms of the blurriness,
And
the
Alex,
migraine headache.
what was the reason for your high blood pressure?
So they don't know. Honestly, they still to this day, and doctors, when I went in to find out I had the issue, they went to see to treat the high blood pressure, and they were able to eventually get it down, but they couldn't give me a reason as to why I had the high blood pressure. But I
Yeah.
did find out I was born with one kidney. I was born, well, more about my origin story. I was born as a preemie. I was born 1 pound and 3 ounces. So I was
Uh,
born super early. So 19, and this is in 1980 in the state of Connecticut. And so it was like really small. And so like I imagine that doctors and nurses back then probably didn't think about looking at kidneys. They looked at my heart development, my brain development, and my lungs. Those are the three things I remember them telling me they were focused on in 1980 when you're born. So they
yeah.
didn't think about kidneys. And then, and I had some eye issues at the time, some vision issues. Being a preemie, I had a collapsed lung, I had a crossed eye, so I had other symptoms as a baby. But the kidney stuff was not anything I didn't see until my 20s, until I kind of crashed into it. Like I was saying, I crashed into it in 2007 with that high blood pressure. Up until that point, I was a young guy, recently moved. I had graduated from college and had the opportunity to hike the Grand Canyon for a year, which was the coolest experience ever. If you ever get the chance to go to a national
Yeah,
park,
I've never
live
been.
there,
I've
oh,
seen it,
beautiful,
but I've never been. I want to
beautiful.
do it. Yeah.
It's really worth it. All that whole part of the country, the southwest of the United States is beautiful. But so Grand Canyon was just simply wonderful. Had the opportunity to meet great people, hear different. It was like walking into like in a really remote place. It's really like in the middle of nowhere in northern Arizona, and you see these people who come to visit it to see this hole in the ground that's just simply beautiful. and you hear the different languages, and it's just great. But so
Yeah.
it was there, and so I met a woman there, and she was from Kentucky, and I took a leap of faith and followed her back, and proceeded to get sick, not knowing that who knows how I got sick. We don't know if it was any kind of like just underlying infection. No one was able to ever really truly give me an answer as to what caused like
So your one
one.
kidney failed
It did, yes.
in 2007.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And then
And then you were listed.
I was listed, yes, I was listed, and then started to, and this is always the fun part, right? The wanting, and this is where we talk about at life and at TransplantLyfe a lot about is, looking at what does it mean to find a living donor. And
Right.
so at first, so I was listed at the
So were you
local center.
listed on dialysis or was this pre-dialysis?
Oh, no, no, this was, I had to do dialysis before I got listed because I had crashed, so I had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I crashed right into dialysis. I had to do it emergently
So you
really quickly.
essentially went from the place where you got your blood pressure taken for free into
hmm
dialysis.
More or less, yes. Yeah. Well, maybe give about a week. They gave me like a week of
Yeah,
time
yeah.
to kind of figure things out, change my food, diet, with all the things, sodium, all the things. So they gave me from when I found out my blood pressure was that high. I was in the hospital for 3 days, Karen and folks, with no insurance, and like they ran all these tests, and that's when they found out I had the one kidney. That one kidney was only working. They did an ultrasound, and they were showing me the picture like on the screen on the monitor, and they were looking, and oh, we see one kidney and it's a little cloudy. We're like, okay, and like, where's your other one? I'm like, it should be right there, right? I would think. I thought I had to, so there was no reason to think
I
I'd need
can't
to
even
look
believe this,
now.
Alex. It must have been such a crazy experience. I mean,
It was.
I'm smiling, but
I know.
because I
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
you, I have a terrible analogy.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I had a headache when I went to medical school, and I remember I was worried, and when you're in medical school, you think everything is a tumor that
Mm-hmm.
you have because you're a little medical student, you read
You
about it.
get very
So
introspective.
I went and
Yeah.
I got my head examined, and what they told me was that I didn't have sinuses. Like I
Mm.
lack sinuses in my head. And
Okay.
they
Okay.
said, you have a really thick skull. You don't have any sinuses. And I'm thinking about you having the experience of having only one kidney versus me not having sinuses. The kidney is so much
Yeah.
worse, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that I have no sinuses, it just means I have less sinus pain, or
Sure.
maybe no drainage. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I can't even imagine your feelings when you were
hmm
told this and when you had to go on dialysis.
It was definitely an experience that I don't wish on my worst person.
Right.
I really think that like it is definitely a humbling experience. I've
Yeah.
learned a lot about myself, and knowing that like, it changed my life completely. It
And
put me
Alex, this was going from a hike for a year in the Grand
Mhm.
Canyon where you are totally like independent of healthcare
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now you're being locked to a machine 3 days a week.
Yes. Correct.
The
Yeah.
contrast could not be,
It was
great.
unbelievable. Yeah, it was, and I was also in a city I didn't know. Like, it wasn't like I was in a place where I had comfort. Like, I was in a brand new place. I'd been, now mind you, Arizona was new to me too, and I took the leap of faith to just go on my own after graduating college to go to Arizona. But I was healthy, at the time, had no issues that I saw until, again, it wasn't until I came back when I came to follow that woman back and fought and came to Kentucky that I got sick. I mean, honestly, had I not found her and gone with her, I don't know if I would have made it there. I always, you wonder, right? What would have happened if I had stayed in Arizona and had not met that person? Would I have gotten sick? And then what would they have would they have the correct health care to deal with somebody like myself? I mean, I probably would have been airlifted somewhere to Phoenix, or who knows what would have actually happened. But like, you think about it that, and sometimes, and it's just it's definitely a God thing, and it's very like everything happened for the way it needed to happen, and I'm blessed to where I am currently. Everything is, I am appreciative of everything that happened. Like, it's definitely, I have my tough moments, and I understand, and talking with people in the community with TransplantLyfe and conversations and the forum we have here, like there's a lot of good dialogue, and I definitely don't feel alone, knowing that like, at first you definitely feel very isolated at times. You feel definitely kind of, it's tough to feel like,
Yeah.
how to explain this to somebody, how do you explain to people what kidney disease is, and it doesn't hit you. It's a silent killer. Like you said, like you said about hypertension, it's insidious. It's like it doesn't want to. You don't
I
see the
mean,
symptoms until too late.
it's interesting, Alex, because
Mhm.
we are, different continents. And
Mhm.
2007, this happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So in 2007, I was in Stockholm and I was on a plane
Mhm.
and flew back to Stockholm. I arrived and I realized I needed to go to hospital. My feet
Mm.
were super
Swollen.
big.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was at a headache. I was diagnosed with kidney failure, essentially, put in a
Yeah.
hospital the same year. And although we were in very different places, very
Yeah.
different, people,
Right.
feeling of now I'm suddenly linked to something.
Yes.
I'm dependent.
Yeah.
I think
For
you're
some reason.
taking it with such grace,
Thank you. Yeah.
and you're seeing it as a cause or as a way for you to educate others, and
It has been my passion. Yeah. That's why I
that's
found
your
this became
passion,
my
right?
passion. Yeah. Yeah. It's become my passion. It's become my project to kind of talk to people and just educate and advocate and be like, I think especially for men, I think men of color, I think just don't have people they can trust or feel like they can, I want to empower patients to make the choice to understand this disease, understand chronic conditions in general too, not just kidney disease, but that's just what I know, right? That's what I live every day. I've been doing it and living it for on and off for since 2007, and it's 2024. So, you do the math, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been dealing
So,
with, or,
so, so
yeah,
something, Alex, that you do that I really like, it motivates me that you
yeah,
do it, is that you every day, almost every day, you put out a post on Facebook, and I
yeah,
wish you did it on Transplant Life,
I
actually,
can do that. Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
even if it's just saying, today I have dialysis, and after that
Mhm.
I'm picking up, after
Right.
that I'm
Yeah,
gonna rest. And then the
yeah.
next day, today I get to pick up my son, or today I
Mhm.
get to, hug my daughter, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have energy. To me, those statements that you put out there
Mm.
are really motivating, because it
Yeah.
keeps me going as well. And I think many others are just following you.
I really appreciate hearing that, because I do that for more my family, but I don't think about like I don't think about I guess my audience, the reach, the eyeballs. I just
Yeah.
really I'm just a stream of consciousness kind of person. So like when I'm in that moment in the mornings, like today when I had dialysis, I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm dealing with, and I just feel like if one person could hear that and say, hey, he's going through what he's going through, maybe life isn't that bad, that I can, either reach out to that person or do something, just it's okay to, like, I think, just share a little bit of yourself and be a little bit
It motivates
vulnerable.
me every day when I see it. I
Thank you.
look for it, and
Oh, thanks.
I was even thinking that I need to kind of respond back to you and say,
Oh,
okay,
thanks.
that's what I'm doing. I
Good,
like it
good,
every
good.
time, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
we should have like we should start that on
I like
Transplant.
that. No, I think that's a great
So,
idea. I think it's a good
so
idea.
Alex, tell the audience a little bit about Transplant Life.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
So with TransplantLyfe currently, it is a beautiful platform that's being used to give us patients who are in all stages of all organs, and we are just a really good group of. There's some really good dialogue and forums about variety of nutrition to symptoms checking to colonoscopy questions to what are you dealing with Social Security and financial, or can I work or can I not work, or if I'm on dialysis, or what. So there's all these varying questions that, like, we're not professionals, we're just patients that run this, and like we give our insight, and I think you're more likely to get people to listen and hear when it's coming from people who are living it every day and who are dealing with these gaps in healthcare or these gaps in their care with their doctors or their nurses. And I think, seeing professionals being able to talk about it and having caregivers on there as well. I think my fiance, and my son and my daughter, they both, like, I give them so much credit to, like, have to deal with me and know that, like, they need a place to be able to kind of a place to vent if they need a place to talk, or they need a place to, like, oh man, my partner's been struggling with this symptom, and what do I do? And so they don't feel alone as a caregiver as well, because I think it's
Yeah.
just as important for the
So,
caregiver
so
too.
we've talked about the caregiver role, right?
Yeah.
And how important it is, and we need a forum for caregivers.
Hmm.
We need support for caregivers. I think that's truly important, because without them, we would be nowhere.
Right.
It's pretty clear. And
Mhm.
you're fortunate. You're very fortunate, and I'm
I
fortunate.
know we
We're
have,
lucky
yeah,
people.
I'm
And not
blessed.
everyone is, but caregivers, care partners, you can find in many different forms.
You
It
can.
doesn't have
Oh,
to be a parent, it doesn't have to be a
exactly.
spouse. It can be a
Hmm.
friend, it can be, someone in the hospital even who does that extra thing for you. So
Hmm.
I
It's all about
think,
natural supports. It's really about building the natural supports that you can find through a friend. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a family member, somebody who you trust, somebody you feel you can talk to about when you're struggling with XYZ, that they feel that they can help you. 'Cause, you got people say, "Oh, how can I help?" And then, and there's certain people you can ask that to, and when they say that to you, you can tell them, and they'll be able to help you with whatever it is you're asking for. If it's a ride to the doctor's appointment, or if it's, filling up this medication, or it's the things like that that I think go a long way.
yeah. How do you think people should offer help? Should they ask you what you want, or do you prefer them just to offer something that they are anticipating, or
I think if they know
what do
you,
you
I
think
think
is
I
best?
think it varies. I think it depends on the person who you're talking with. If you know them well
Yeah,
enough, I think it's really going to be. It's not a one size fits all model on that kind of
right.
question. Because I think everyone's going to be a little different. Some people, like if you just tell them this is what I need, and a certain subset of people of your friends or your family are going to be people who will just do it without you asking, or I mean when you ask, and then there are those folks who just don't know and will ask, and you just have to be direct. You have to be very direct. I see Sam's question, I think there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying just
Mhm.
ask if you're
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah. If you're
And I
comfortable, just
think I
ask.
think
Yeah.
Sam I think Sam is right.
Mhm.
There's no reason to sugarcoat it, right, with those who you're comfortable with.
Mhm.
You should just ask. But I think we all have a certain pride, and we all have a certain feeling of I can do it. But
Yeah.
we
Bootstrap
should,
kind of mentality. But I think at the same time, I mean, I think we're only as strong as our weakest link in certain, and I think
yeah.
the power in numbers. You gotta really feel like you can you can feel comfortable and confident with yourself if you're dealing with something. And I think, like, I've not been afraid to ask for help at all. Like when I
Mhm.
know I'm, having struggling with making a meal, or if I'm struggling with, like, I can't take care of my son in this moment, like I'm leaning on my fiance a lot for that. Or if I can't get to my daughter, I have to deal with my ex-wife and talk to her, and everyone's still understanding to my situation, and I'm okay with, like, you know they know it. They just know, and that's
Yeah,
blessing.
yeah.
And I know, again, like you alluded to it earlier. We are lucky to have those kind of people in our lives. Not everyone has that, and so if I can be that for somebody even under my circumstances, then I'll do what I can.
And there are many different ways of being there. It may not be
Exactly. Yeah.
physical, it could be emotional health, right? And that's sometimes as important.
Yeah.
So we
Totally.
shouldn't feel always obligated that it's a quid pro quo, right?
Hmm.
Because there are moments in time when you can be strong and someone may be weak. So I
Exactly.
do think that life plays out its
Hmm.
ways, in good way.
Hmm.
So you mentioned your children,
Yeah.
how is that?
So
How do you explain to
yeah,
them? Yeah.
I explained to them, my son, who's with me full time, he asks a lot of questions, and I'm always when I first started back on dialysis after my transplant failed in 2020, I explained it to him, and I was doing home dialysis. I did PD for about a year, and so he was able to kind of watch me go through that process, and he asked all the kind of questions about um, what the fluid was, and where my catheter was, and what that meant, and how he had to have his mask on, and all the things.
Yeah.
So he was always inquisitive, and still is to this day. He's 8, and so he's still doing that. My daughter, because I don't have I'm not with her full time. It's a little different. Um, but she, I think as she's getting older, she's 13 now. So I think she'll ask more questions as she gets older, and sees, um, when she starts seeing, like, times, like if I have, like, an appointment, if I can't pick her up, and because I'm sick, she'll then ask why, and then we'll kind of go into that conversation. But it's a little different for her. But yeah, my children really, are very, you know, empathetic and warm and want to help me when they can, of course. And
Yeah.
but they've been good and they ask good questions. Yeah, they're very inquisitive.
I think
And
children who get exposed to, you know, parents' vulnerability earlier,
yeah.
it's a different way of growing up because, you
Mhm.
know, many who have parents who are totally healthy, we realize at a
Yeah.
certain point that
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
aren't gods.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
remember when I was 12 and I beat my father in tennis and I thought,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't have respect anymore." But, you know,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
were other
Yeah.
things I had respect for, but there are different moments in time when you feel that, okay, the parent isn't always right. And I think for children who have parents who have a disease that happens earlier, that
Okay.
they feel, okay, I can be helpful, but that can be positive, right? That can be
Yeah.
positive and make them
Exactly.
feel, but it's
How
also
do
a
you?
little bit more of a responsibility, maybe.
No, it is. It is. Yeah. But how do you do it with your daughter? How does that work? I see.
Yeah,
I'm like
so
you're.
I was very worried about it,
Mhm.
and because it was scary, especially with the catheter in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
neck, and
Mhm.
she wasn't she was scared of it, so
Mhm.
I elected to try to hide that. You know, the
Okay.
catheter was just not something she wanted to see,
Sure.
but I explained to her very clearly in pretty, you know,
Basic. Yeah.
clear terms, you know, their kidneys and those kidneys are not working and I need to get a new kidney and that new kidney is coming from your aunt. You go
Yeah.
into the hospital, one kidney is
Yeah.
taken out and you have two
There you go.
kidneys and I will now have one and it will
Mhm.
sit in a different place.
Okay.
And then I said to her, you know, the kidneys are very important. And she's still
Mm.
now, you know, it's only less than a year, but she says,
Yeah.
most important in the body is the brain. Then it's the
Yeah.
and then it's the kidneys.
I bet. I bet. Of course. Of course.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
she has the kidney. She really respects the kidney.
Good. Awesome. Awesome. All good.
But
Good.
it's interesting. Her main point was, I'm so happy that you are back because now you're not cold all the time.
Oh, cold. That's a symptom I
So
still have.
she
Oh
really
man.
she noticed the biggest difference was not, maybe I put on a lot of energy when I was with her always, but
Hmm.
she was really so noticing the difference that I was cold and then I kind of didn't seem cold anymore.
Interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. I'll be happy to have that happen. Which is interesting. You speaking of the cold tolerance and stuff, I am always cold. Like dialysis must have done it to me. I don't remember dialysis. Remember being as cold as I was since my kidneys had failed. And since then, since even with my transplant that I had for 13 years, I think I was cold-blooded and always cold. And then obviously still now on dialysis, like because of all the blood going in and out of your body. I mean,
yeah,
it has to be. Yeah. I'm just always cold. It could be 85, 90 degrees. And I'm wearing like a long sleeve shirt and I make people like, gosh, you're making me look so hot and during the summertime. I'm like, I'm cold. I'm sorry. It's the way it is.
yeah. Our house is always warm.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But no, I think that if you're clear and you
Yeah.
include, but you don't
Hmm.
scare,
Yeah.
and obviously present a path that,
Hmm.
you know, and then of course if it doesn't go well, that's a different question. But
Of
you know,
course.
as
Of
long
course.
as there's I think you need to be pretty honest, but not go into the gory details.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, so yeah, no, I know you're gonna have a path, and obviously you are such an inspiring individual, you know,
Thank you.
even with everything that you're going through. And
Mhm.
I tell you, for me, with my, you know, transplant now, I go to you just because
Mhm.
every day is it's not easy for anyone, right?
No, it's
It's
not.
not
Yeah.
easy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and having that attitude is you know, half the battle, I think.
I tell people all the time. I tell my fiance, I say, I give myself 10 seconds. I count to 10 when I'm feeling really down or I feel like I could be maybe in that spiraling and that depression,
Yeah,
anxiety feeling, that whole bucket of stuff. And I give myself 10 seconds to feel it. And if I'm by myself from my car, I'll scream or I'll do something, I'll cry, I'll get that feeling out, take a deep breath and say, okay, I got that out, and now it's like I'm not in denial. I'll tell you that, Karen. Like I'm
yeah,
very like I'm real, but I'm also like I look for the best. I look for the good in people, and I look for the good in everything, and I try to find the silver lining in this awful disease.
yeah. It's an awful
There's so
disease,
much there's so much, You know, there's
And
so
that's
many
why we're
things.
working so hard, right? I mean, and
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
you know, we
I love
are
this.
offering this platform for other people to share and for people to
Exactly.
connect
Yeah.
with us. So
Mhm.
Transplant Life is what that is, and obviously
Yeah.
if you want to connect there, you can
Yeah.
and meet people like Alex and you know and many others.
Sure.
But I do have to say, I think I'm going to take your advice that
Yeah.
when I start feeling sorry for myself or
Mhm.
start feeling sad,
Yeah.
I'm going to go and scream somewhere.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'm gonna come back and be positive because I do think
Exactly.
it's a
Yeah.
release. It's a good
Mhm.
one. That's a
It
great
is.
piece of advice.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah,
Thank
it
you,
works.
Alex.
You're welcome. Oh, you're very
Yeah,
welcome.
I really enjoyed this conversation. We can continue, but
Oh, we
I
could, of
think
course.
we
I
gotta
get it.
say thank you and have a good
Sure.
evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye
Bye,
now.
everybody. See you.
Bye.